Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Mike Santoro. I'm the Director of Policy Research and Housing Support for the Department of Housing. This is the State Roundtable. It is April 1st, 2021. The State Roundtable is for the fiscal 21-22 action plan for housing and community development in support of our 5-year con plan for the period fiscal 20 through fiscal 24. I want to thank you all for coming. This is our state partner roundtable. Most of the people in the room are with or represent state agencies or other agency or organizational partners like CHFA. I'll do a quick set of introductions. I'll call your name if you could very briefly tell us what agency you're with and what you do, and we'll get started. I tend to work alphabetically, so for those of you at the end of the alphabet, I apologize in advance. Brian Garcia, you're up.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Good morning. Brian Garcia, President and CEO of the Connecticut Green Bank. We provide capital to families and businesses who want to deploy clean energy.
Thank you, Brian. Steve Dalella.
My name is Steve Dalella, Director of the Individual and Family Support Program Unit here at the Department of Housing.
Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan Green with the Office of Policy and Management. I work in the Budget and Financial Management Division.
Megan is our budget analyst for the department and is critical to everything that we do. Tanya Hughes. All right, Tanya, we'll come back to you. Commissioner.
Sorry about that. I was doing a whole speech and didn't realize I was muted. Tanya Hughes, Executive Director of the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. We handle discrimination-related matters in the state of Connecticut. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tanya. And I see my commissioner has hopped on, so we'll stop introductions for a minute in case my commissioner wants to say anything. Commissioner.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for participating in the draft for fiscal year 21-22, the action plan. The work that Mike has been doing with citizen participation and getting feedback in developing our plan is very important. So I can't be more thankful that your participation will also help us to shape our plans as we continue producing more affordable housing, preserving more affordable housing, and also providing choices to our residents in rentals and homeownership. This year, we will be putting a little more emphasis in homeownership too. So thank you, everybody, and looking forward to working, especially with Brian, since he is a bank.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much. All right, back to introductions. Matt Pafford, you're up, Matt.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Pafford. I'm with the Office of Policy and Management. I work in the Office of Responsible Growth, where I deal largely with issues related to the State Plan of Conservation and Development and the Connecticut Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA, as most of us know it. Thank you, Matt. Danielle.
Hi, Danielle Palladino, Policy Development Coordinator with the Office of the Secretary at OPM. I'm just tagging along with Megan and Matt today.
Thank you, Danielle. Tawny.
Hi, everyone. This is Tawny Pho from Department of Housing. I work on several different federal project-based rental assistance programs with the Department of Housing, as well as support for the state housing portfolio.
Thank you, Tawny. Kyle Pilon. Or Pylon, not sure.
That's right, Pylon. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyle. I work with the Office of Early Childhood in the Research Division, which is a partnership between OEC and UConn. And I believe a colleague of mine, Kate Parr, will be joining in just a bit as well.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. Nice to meet you. Miguel.
Good morning. I am Miguel Rivera. I'm with the Department of Housing. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development. Look forward to the conversation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Miguel is responsible for 3 of the 5 federal programs that are covered by this action plan. Judith. you're up.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Judith Rothschild. I am Supervisory Assistant State's Attorney for statewide housing matters out of the Chief State's Attorney's Office, in charge of prosecution of all health and safety codes for the state and municipalities, and also landlord-tenant criminal matters. Good morning.
Thank you, Judith. Josh, you're up.
Good morning. I'm Josh Galora, Director of Service Development and Support for DDS. I'm representing DDS on the call, and I represent DDS with my colleague Tammy Venenge on the Interagency Committee for Supportive Housing. We work with our partners on the call to promote and move forward supportive, safe, and affordable housing for people with disabilities. Thanks.
Thank you, Josh. Terry.
Good morning, everyone. I think I'm okay here.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Terry Nash Giovannucci with Connecticut Housing Finance Authority. I work in community engagement and outreach, creating partnerships. I'm also working with the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program Qualified Allocation Plan, developing strategies to do the deepest income targeting that we possibly can and to address the needs for homeless housing through the interagency with Josh. I also am working on the Capital Magnet Fund program that is new to CHAFA.
Thank you, Terry. And last but not least, Laura.
Hi, everybody. I work with Michael with the Department of Housing, working on a lot of planning initiatives that we have going on.
Thank you, Laura. I don't think I missed anybody, but is there anybody I missed?
Hi, everybody. This is John Slivka. I'm executive.
Sorry, John.
No worries, Michael. Thank you. This is Jonathan Slivka. I'm an executive assistant to the Commissioner of the Department of Aging and Disability Services, representing the agency and the Commissioner. Looking forward to the discussion today. Thanks, Michael.
Anybody else? All right. I always miss somebody. I don't know how that works. Anyway, thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time, effort, and energy. Our draft action plan in support of the consolidated plan is out for public comment as of today. It's published in the newspapers. It's up on the website. We're going to talk about some of the high-level priorities, and I'm going to try to get some information from you guys in the conversation this morning. And please understand, this is a conversation. This is not more than that. We want to hear from you about how we can better coordinate what we are doing with what you're doing. And I'll get a little bit into the weeds on that in just a minute. Just a reminder, the action plan supports 5 primary federal programs relative to funding. 2 fall under Steve DiLella. The 3 fall under Miguel Rivera, as I mentioned earlier. The 2 under Steve, Emergency Solutions Grant, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS. The 3 under Miguel are the National Housing Trust Fund, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, and the Community Development Block Grant Small Cities Programs. I did a brief description, the last roundtable, for what those programs do. To anybody completely unfamiliar and need a quick refresher on what those 5 programs are about. And don't be shy. Okay, we're going to plow forward then. I'm going to share my screen. And we'll start with funding table. What you should see in front of you, and I hope you see in front of you, is the funding table that breaks out these funds. As well as the state resources that we leverage for these other activities. Looking at table 1, and I hope that's big enough. Let me blow it up just a little. Wrong way. There we go.
Better.
Okay. Thanks, Terry. Appreciate that. We'll go even one more. Okay. Start at the top, the Home Investment Partnerships Program. We expect to get about 9.6 million. CDBG Small Cities, about 8.3. NHTF, which is the National Housing Trust Fund. We don't have a solid number on NHTF. HUD is slow in identifying the allocation. The minimum allocation is 3 million. Historically, we get around 3.2. We expect we'll get at least 3.2. So in our plan, we will reflect that $3.2 million number. If it's slightly higher, it will continue to be used for the same eligible activities. We do not expect that number to go up. That being said, I learned I learned Tuesday. Under the American Rescue Plan, a significant amount of resources, about $5.5 billion, is going to be further distributed under the Home Investment Partnership Program. HUD has an obligation to identify those allocations by the end of April. Our plan is due to HUD May 15th. So timing is everything, and HUD's timing sucks. I'll say it that way. We're putting in our plan our intent on how we're going to spend the $9.6 million. When HUD reallocates those new home dollars under the American Rescue Plan, we will in all likelihood be required to issue a separate home allocation plan on how those funds will be distributed. So yes, there will in fact be more home money coming, but it may, and in all likelihood, will be more targeted than our current home allocation. So this is just about the 9 million or so that we're going to get under our regular allocation. There'll be a new opportunity to talk about the additional home dollars when HUD issues those allocations. Okay. The rest of the table one are state resources, and I won't go through all of them individually. Just understand those programs, codified in state statute, help us to support those federal programs and vice versa. The requirements are different, but the target populations are usually very closely aligned, and we try to maximize the efficiency of the use of all of those dollars. Taking a quick look at table 2, the top 2 lines are also the other 2 federal programs I mentioned that are covered by this action plan. ESG, the Emergency Solutions Grant, which for HUD, we're going to get about $1 million, but we leverage it with $5 million in state resources and about $6.5 million worth of other federal dollars that come through the Department of Social Services, who we thank as a partner for passing those funds through to us. We are also hearing that there may be an additional ESG allocation under the American Rescue Plan. No indication of when or how much on that one, though. As I indicated earlier, we know the home distribution is supposed to be put out before the end of April. Have not heard when their HUD is going to lay out the ESG allocation. HOPWA, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, again. It's a very small federal grant, only about $271,000 that we leverage with a little over $4 million worth of state resources. So you can see when you look at the big picture, we do a pretty good job here in the state of Connecticut of leveraging state resources against those federal dollars to have the greatest possible impact. The rest of this table are those other programs that support those 2 activities. Again, I won't go down and describe all of them for you. Just understand it's the state's way of leveraging and taking advantage of federal opportunities and access to those dollars. Any questions about the money itself before we move on? Great. So I'm going to dive right in. The document that you see right now, and I'll blow it up just a little bit more, are pulled directly out of the draft action plan. And they're information that we are looking for from you, your organizations and the people you represent, that we can incorporate into our plan and then over the next year take action on, because that's the idea. This is an action plan. It is intended to identify what specific actions we as a state agency will take in support of those federal dollars to meet the needs of the citizens here in the state of Connecticut. So specifically, one of the questions we are required to answer is identify the following actions that will be taken in the program year to overcome gaps in institutional structures and enhance coordination. This roundtable is one of those actions, but it's, and Brian must have got dropped off because he's coming back. The idea is to identify what actual coordination is happening. So during the program year, DOH will continue to participate in these institutional groups and committees. And we've identified the biggest and most active ones, specifically Long-Term Care Planning Committee, the Connecticut Balance of State Continuum of Care Steering Committee, Money Follows the Person Steering Committee, the Interagency Committee on Supportive Housing and Homelessness, the Journey Home Steering Committee, and the Reaching Home Steering Committee. There are other committees, organizations, and interagency interactions that occur. We would like to identify them. If you know of others that we are currently either actively participating in, or you want us at the table over the next year, we want to hear about it. Okay, you have two choices. You can tell me now. You can send either myself or Laura an email identifying that group, sending us an invite to next meeting, and I guarantee you, either Laura, myself, or both of us will show up and participate. And if appropriate, we'll drag Steve, Miguel, and or their staff kicking and screaming to the meeting. And I see Terry laughing, so thank you, Terry. So I'm going to just throw it out there in general. Are there any known committees, working groups, or other institutional structures that we can help participate in to better coordinate what we're doing at the Department of Housing with what you're doing at your state agency? Judith, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. I mentioned at the last meeting the effort in the state towards working on extreme or severe hoarding cases. There is a about 8-year running unofficial hoarding working group that I will get you invited into. There are several state agencies that are already voluntarily involved with this, and that includes Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, the Department of Administrative Services, State Fire Marshal, State Building Inspector's Office has been involved. Also the Department of Children and Family, the Department of Social Services, Protective Services for the Elderly, our office in Criminal Justice, Division of Criminal Justice. I know I'm forgetting Department of Agriculture for Animal Control, and State Police for the Fire and Explosion Unit, and also Emergency Services. And I may be forgetting some. Also, several municipalities are involved, and social service and mental health providers are involved. So we have been sponsoring statewide conferences. I think we've had 7 of them so far yearly, and they're all always sold out. We're going to have another one online in June. We are trying to coordinate responses to severe hoarding properties in the effort of saving lives and also property. I'll make sure you get invited to our next meeting, which is scheduled the 3rd week of April. If anyone else is interested in joining, I'd be happy if you would spread the news through whatever network you would like to, or just please contact me directly. I'll put my address again, my email into the chat. Reminding you that I'm with state service through April 30, and you can contact the Chief State's Attorney's Office to contact the housing supervisor that will replace me after that, or find me at the City of Hartford. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. And let me ask you a question while we got you here. Is there been any thought or discussion about making this a more formal interagency activity, recognizing the severity of the issue?
Well, we have the support of the many agencies voluntarily, but as far as making it formal, there was years ago a bill which was passed to create a hoarding task force, which was to be initiated and might have come up with such recommendations. Unfortunately, that task force never did get convened. And so since we've been really producing things as best we can on voluntary basis of the several partners, we have hundreds of people on a coalition who are working on the issue, but I think that the answer is it would be terrific. And let me add Department of Public Health, which isn't showing, who's very involved. But we who have been involved for about 8 years now would definitely welcome this being formalized and some agency or agencies coordinating that.
Great. Thank you, Judith. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Anything else you have actively going where we can, if we're not already participating, can be a more active and participatory partner?
I just want to know, is it really true that you're moving away from state service? Or is that like an April Fool's joke like Michael?
No.
Is that question to me or to Michael?
Yes, Judith.
Yeah,
it was to you, Judith.
I am really moving effective May 1, retiring after 30 years as a housing prosecutor with the Division of Criminal Justice. Very mixed emotions. Love the work I do. Not leaving the work, I have accepted a position with the City of Hartford as a director of blight remediation and housing code enforcement beginning in May.
So we're not losing Judith. She's just changing how we're going to interact with her.
Changing hats.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Can't believe you've done 30 years of service. I mean, look at Michael, and you look so youthful.
Oh!
Oh, that's on live recording. Thank you.
Wow.
All right, back to business. I'm blushing.
Really?
I'm leaving.
All right.
I'm leaving.
Anybody else?
Bye.
Thank you, Judith. Any other working groups like that? Yes, please.
I would just like to offer up a group that we're beginning to consider and establish. It's an advisory working group for CHAFA. And obviously, we would very much want to have your involvement. So as soon as we have something a little bit more definitive, I will happily extend the invitation. And to others as well, anyone who's interested in our work, our policy and procedures, and interested in helping us to move forward in a more collaborative and integrated way, be happy to have you.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks.
Any primary agenda at this point, or just to help CHAFA become more efficient and effective? Let's see here. Kyle, you're up.
Great, thank you. So OEC is the coordinating agency for the 2Gen Interagency Advisory Council. Though I'm not the 2Gen coordinator, I do believe DOH has participated in those meetings. And then something that falls into more of the future interaction would be, I believe we're looking to revive an early childhood council. So I think DOH would certainly be welcome to participate, to join and participate. I can get you more firm language on that in an email.
That'd be great. I appreciate it, Kyle. And I think Steve and or his staff have participated on the 2Gen working group. I was involved very early on, but just workload has prevented me from attending all the various 2Gen meetings. I do get the meeting invites and review the agendas. I haven't seen a lot of direct interaction for us at this point. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, actually,
do your stats still go, Steve?
Yeah, so I think a little bit during COVID, there was a little bit of a decrease because we're all kind of being overloaded with that, but I've certainly been in attendance the last few months. And DOH is involved because they are working on a 2-generation benefits cliff. I can't think of the right term that the Atlanta Fed is putting out there that really helps to assess where those cliffs are. And actually, DOH is looking at potentially making some changes to our RAP program to disregard income for working youth age 18 to 24 that are not full-time students, because it has been brought to our attention that that type of activity may actually prevent those youth from actually working, because they would then have to contribute that portion to the rent. So that actually leads to intergenerational poverty. So it's something that we're working on and seeing if that is something that we want to push forward with. Certainly, we are willing to do so. So just waiting to see how like these tests work out and then make changes from there.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. And if you've got some more information that you think is relevant for the plan on that particular issue, can you get us a little something? I'd appreciate it.
Sure, it's still kind of
and that's fine.
Yeah, so I think it's more of an extra thing.
As it gets fleshed out, maybe we'll look to add some additional information material over the next year. But I appreciate if you keep us up to date.
Yep.
Okay. Brian Garcia.
Great. So Michael, I'm not sure if this would be a part of the long-term.
No, Brian, you tapped out on us. Oh, unfortunately, Brian froze. I know he had a problem a little while ago, dropped off, came back. I'm going to hope it's his end and not mine. Can Steve or Terry, since I can see you guys, give me a thumbs up? You can still hear me? Okay, great. So, yay. So it's Brian. It's not me. Yay. That's nice for a change. We'll come back to Brian and what other activities he we are involved with Green Bank, but not through any kind of a working group. But we do coordinate activities on the development side with Green Bank as they are an investor in some of the projects that we do with our own financing as well as in conjunction with CHFA. Okay, anybody else? If you do think of something where we can better coordinate or that is relevant enough over the next year that we want to include it here as an identification of ways that we will overcome gaps in institutional structures and enhancing coordination, we'd love to include it. Okay. The other issue that's important for us is the identification of interconnected plans. These are the plans that we have already identified and that we use when we create our policies here at the Department of Housing. We reference them on a regular basis. I have actually read them, which for those of you who drafted them should make you feel good, because most of the time the plans that we draft don't get read, or they get read by a very small handful of people. We have the Connecticut Economic Development Strategy from 2018, the Conservation and Development Policies Plan, which I know Matt was instrumental in creating, as well as the TANF plan, which is due to be updated at any point in time. There is another one on the books that never in my career has been updated, and that's the state's anti-poverty strategy. On the books is a statutory working group, an advisory panel that's supposed to be identifying ways to address the state's activities associated with anti-poverty. Laura will tell you it's a personal bone of mine that I try to pick every year. We are not the lead agency for it. We are just a participating agency. There's Brian's back. We'll get him in and then we'll go back to him. But I ask those of you here in the room, think about the state's overall activities as they relate to an anti-poverty strategy. The federal administration is looking at continued poverty. Steve talked a little bit about a minute ago when he started talking about what we're going to be doing hopefully under the 2Gen initiative, and looking at those income determinations and excluding certain portions of income in order to promote or stop promoting poverty. I ask each of you, if you have the opportunity to have a conversation up the chain from a policy standpoint, we need to restart the conversation about a coordinated activity at the state level regarding anti-poverty. Okay. Right now, we make a general statement associated that all of our programs work towards, and we try to craft our policies to make anti-poverty strategies incorporated in those activities. And as Steve talked about a minute ago, we do that on a program by program basis. I think personally, as a state, we need to do better. I think we can do better. And similar to what we did with the Interagency Committee on Supportive Housing and Homelessness, which started more than 20 years ago as a conversation between state agencies, I think we can get state agencies together to start to talk about and take real, serious, achievable actions to address poverty here in the state of Connecticut. Brian, you're back. I hope you have stabilized. I'm going to open it back up to you. What do you got?
Forgive me. The idea was so good that it crashed my computer. No, not really. But no, so I think you had a long-term care committee there, Michael, and I'm not sure if this is what would fit there, but at the last meeting, Judith and the commissioner and I were talking about the Green and Healthy Homes initiative linkage to energy and kind of household energy burden sorts of things. So kind of wrestling with that in a working group or a subgroup of a working group. And then secondly, the thought was just following on yesterday's infrastructure announcement. We're going to, if that moves forward or some version of it, I think what we're going to see is more housing investment and sustainability around housing. So ensuring healthy homes, for example. So anyways, just wanted to put those two things out there.
Appreciate that, Brian. And we do talk about healthy homes in the plan. And as you know, we do fund right now predominantly associated with lead abatement. But we just got done talking with CHFA and the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection about trying to better coordinate our energy efficiency programs with our healthy homes, hazardous materials remediation programs to address those gaps that deal predominantly with, I'll call it housing code enforcement, but Judith would call property maintenance. And my commissioner is very interested in trying to better coordinate the various funding sources that we have to not necessarily all in one bag, but to be able to better tie the pieces together. So the lead money, asbestos money, housing code enforcement money, energy efficiency money, to make those kinds of activities work better, easier together, and in particular to target those least affected households or least benefited households these days. Not most they are most affected, but least able to access those funds. We see it unfortunately on a regular basis. DEEP was looking at their numbers the other day in terms of their energy efficiency programs, and those who need it the least have better access to those programs. And we're going to be working with DEEP over the next year to try to better coordinate and target those resources to those low and extremely low income families and households, not just by status, but by location. Tanya.
Michael, yeah, just wanted to add.
Commissioner, sorry.
Brian, you were mentioned, and we're going to invite you to that group because we want to make sure that all the resources, even if we use it for preservation or for production, we want to make sure that we bring all together.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Brian. Tanya.
Yes, I just wanted to add that the CHRO would be ecstatic to participate in this group as well. Part of our mission is to eliminate discrimination, and housing is one of the major areas. And part of our mission also includes affirmative efforts to eliminate gaps in the housing equity level. So we certainly would be interested in participating in any type of anti-poverty strategy efforts that you're engaging in. Great. So I wanted to offer our services.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. We don't get the opportunity, I'll say it that way, to have a positive interaction with CHRO as often as we should. We used to many years ago with the old Department of Housing, which I was part of.
So we want to change that.
Well, we'd like to do that as well. Thank you, Tanya. I
Wonderful.
Appreciate it. Matt, you're up.
Yeah, just I think I can speak for the other folks in OPM here that, whatever efforts you're working on, whether it be anti-poverty or affordable housing or anything in between, I think you can count on us to be part of those conversations. I did want to speak specifically to the plan of conservation in Connecticut, or conservation development here. The 2018 to 2023 plan is yet to be adopted, so it's actually not the official plan. It looks as though it will be adopted this session. It also looks like they're going to give us a year before we need to start working on the next iteration of the plan. Obviously, affordable housing is a huge component of that. So, if and when those conversations start to happen here over the next year, we'd really like to get engagement, not only from DOH, but the other folks on this phone call to make sure that we can, we're all working on the same sheet of music here to develop plans and policies here that coincide with one another's goals.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it, but let me ask you a question.
Sure.
We link directly to your plan online.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see a problem with that?
No, I don't. And that's actually one of the conversations that we have internally, is that kind of the way we see it is that the state plan of conservation development is way up here at the 100,000 foot level and kind of sets a broad umbrella of policies with the intent to rely on the agencies who are the subject experts to kind of get down into the details and develop those plans in policies that really get at the heart of it and that are really going to kind of work towards the implementation of some of these things. So I think it's great that you kind of reference ours and then you guys dial it down. The difference between the 2013 to 2018 plan and the 2018 to 2023 is pretty minimal. But right. We're expecting that this next iteration is going to be much more substantial because there seems to be a whole lot more folks that are interested in it and that are asking for certain changes. And so we want to make sure we get that, as close to right as we can. So we're going to be relying on you folks to help us get there.
Thanks, Matt. And I've been a participating member for the Department of Housing, both to the prior plan and, believe it or not, to the one before that. So happy to participate. Happy when you guys begin to have those conversations. Is it fair to say that zoning modifications or adjustments will be a fair component of that discussion?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big topic of discussion. I think the plan is going to be hesitant to get to start to identify to that level of detail. But, again, if there are policies, broad policies that can be included in there that can help set the stage for folks at DOH or folks who are more, at the ground level to start to talk about what are some things that can be done at the zoning level, at the municipal level, I think that's the place to kind of start that domino effect.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Are there any other state agency plans that DOH should be looking at that we're not already looking at as we craft our policies and figure out where we're going with the investment, not just of these 5 federal resources, but with our overall resources? And you don't have to tell me them now, but if you have those plans, they're up on the website. Please email myself or Laura a link to those plans. I promise you, one or both of us will read them. And if you think there's relevant components to those plans to help drive what we do, or better help you and or help us help you, we want to know about them. Okay. There are a lot of plans out there and some of them just have no relationship to what we do. I've tried to identify those specifically that we work with, or that we need to work with, or that we that tie directly to the activities that we have underway. But if you have that, we want to know about them. Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it, everybody. Just as a reminder now, I'm going to move this down just a little, just so it's all on one page. Make it easy. Here we go. So in the consolidated plan, and thus in the action plan, the State Department of Housing has 3 overarching goals. Work to ensure decent housing is available to all. Work to ensure that all the state's residents live in a suitable living environment. And work to ensure that all the state's residents have access to economic opportunities. And we've talked about them in the broader sense in the plan discussion and in the interagency activities. I'd like to take these on one at a time. These are in our con plan, so they're not subject to change at this point, but we can tweak or prioritize components within each of these 3 goals over the next year. And if any of these pop out, or we can identify ways that your agency and ours can better collaborate to impact components of these goals, we'd like to identify those. So we'll start with the first one: work to ensure decent housing is available to all. Okay. Decent housing includes assisting homeless persons to obtain appropriate housing, assisting persons at risk of homelessness, the retention of stock, increasing availability of permanent housing in standard condition and affordable cost to low-income and moderate-income families, particularly members of disadvantaged minorities, without discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, or disability. Please note, this does not include all of the protected classes in Connecticut. We recognize that. This is a federal plan, so we defer to the federal list. Do we go beyond that here in the state of Connecticut? Yes, we do. We are one of the most progressive states in regard to discrimination that's out there. We have more protected classes, and I'll say it this way, feel more strongly about the prevention of discrimination overall than some of our sister states and other parts of the country who shall remain nameless, like Georgia. I mean, in any case, decent housing includes increasing the supply of supportive housing, which combines structural features and services needed to enable persons with special needs, including persons with AIDS and their families, to live with dignity and independence, and providing affordable housing to low-income persons accessible to job opportunities. These priorities drive, or these concepts drive, where we invest and how we invest. For you guys at the other state agencies, do any of these rise to the level of a priority for your organization? And can we better coordinate or identify linkages? And I see we've had a bunch more people jump in, and I appreciate even the late arrivals. So thank you for being here. Okay, so understand. And for those of you who missed the early on, and I see one hand, John Slivka. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Michael. Certainly, the areas regarding persons with special needs, disability, and such, and age, which I know is not in here, but there may be a reason. Certainly, are top priorities for our agency. So I'll just leave it.
Thank you, John. And yep. You know, interesting you mentioned that. You know, because of the policies of our prior administration, which was in place when this consolidated plan was developed and passed, age was not considered a priority for that particular administration. And we don't have it in our con plan as a priority. So I'll throw it out to you guys. What do you think?
It's definitely included in our mission at CHRO. So it's certainly a priority of ours and something we could help work with you on that.
No, I appreciate it. I guess my question is more broad and more generalized. We don't exclude, and we certainly don't discriminate based on age, but we have not prioritized age in a lot of what we do. Some of our newer programs, specifically around homelessness, prioritize youth in particular. When people hear age, they tend to think old. They don't really think about age and age discrimination. Age discrimination happens at both ends of the spectrum. And the way that we treat our youth is very different than the way that we need and to treat our elderly. As Steve talked about a little while ago, one of the things that their program is looking at is income exclusions. Is specifically to address the 18 to 24-year-olds. We're doing that. We don't talk about it a lot, in that regard because it's more focused on the homeless side and addressing homelessness, not the age component. When we talk about permanent supportive housing, we're helping people with disabilities of any age. Some people have said that there are sufficient opportunities for persons of a certain age that we don't need to target resources to that older population group. I'm just looking for a little feedback on that concept.
Michael, this is John again. I think it's critical just because we are one of the oldest states in the country, and it's going up. So I think it's critical, not only from the decent housing side, but also our discussion earlier, discrimination as well. I think it's important in all aspects that the aging community be considered.
Hi, my name's Kate Parr, and I just wanted to mention that the OEC does have a partnership around homelessness for families that have children under the age of 6. And we have had some interventions related to that. So, to the extent that it relates to the specific point about ensuring housing available to families with young children, I'm not sure if that adds into your plan that way, but that is something that there could be some potential partnerships with the OEC on.
Great. And Kate, thank you for showing up and thank you for participating. Laura.Watson@ct.gov is the primary liaison here for that kind of information. If you have initiatives or activities that you have underway and you can send Laura some information, I would very much appreciate it. OEC is not, from my perspective, an agency that we have had a lot of direct interaction with. And I think that's an opportunity for us to change. So I thank you.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Thanks. Judith, go ahead. You don't have to raise your hand.
Well, okay. I'm certainly not keen on the numbers presently, but I've seen them, and certainly I agree that our senior population is very large and growing percentage-wise to our overall population in Connecticut. And in addition, there's a desire on the part of many of our seniors, I don't know the percentage of that either, but it's a lot, that want to age at home. Given that, the need to have safe and affordable housing, including energy efficient housing, is great in the aging population, which I'm part of, and all of us will hopefully be part of at one point or another. So I do think we should emphasize that in the programming coming out of the plan, respectfully.
Thank you.
So can I just add a little bit to it? Can you hear me, Michael?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay.
We can always hear you.
Sometimes I'm mute and I don't know. So from my experience on managing and developing affordable housing, I did both family housing. We call it family housing, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and then senior housing. But the majority of, in the family housing, the majority of the 1-bedroom units were usually occupied by seniors. And this is the comments that I got from a couple of my seniors at that time. Don't put me with old people. I want to be with family. I want to be part of a community where there are children. So when you do a combination, intentionally more 1-bedrooms, usually goes to the seniors that do want to live in a community that is diverse, that is not just elderly. And then there are others. So I guess what I'm saying is we have to have a combination because not everybody wants to be in an elderly place. Some people get a little more stimulus in being part of a larger community with diverse population.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as you can see, I think you guys can see that I'm taking notes here. And that's for those of you who don't know, at the Department of Housing, we are about building communities. We are not about building segregated housing. And I don't mean segregation in the big S segregation. I mean, as the commissioner pointed out, housing specifically targeted for seniors. We build communities. We build housing. We promote the construction of mixed use, mixed income, mixed target populations. If you look around the state of Connecticut, neighborhoods are diverse. We want and we work towards housing production that is in fact diverse. There are some communities who would build senior housing until the sun came, until the sun went down, or until the cows came home, whichever vernacular you'd like to use. But either way, we would never think to build a single unit to serve their young families, their young working families, their volunteers. And that's something we've been working hard to overcome. I don't want to ignore our aging population. I think the commissioner put it well, and I ask you guys to think about it as well. I know I don't want to live with a bunch of, I'll say it this way, I don't want to live with a bunch of old people. I will disclose, I turn 60 later this year. I am not old, as I tell my wife and children repeatedly. Until, well, I don't know when. I don't know that I'll ever be old. But, we are in a different mode, at least from my perspective, than we used to be when I first started in this industry. And I think we need to keep going down that road. But I don't want to exclude age as a population group. So I appreciate the mention, and we'll look at expanding how we talk about age. I'm gonna offer up Commissioner Dykes right now, since her hand is up. Commissioner.
Let's see. Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. I just wanted to say thanks so much for this opportunity to provide some feedback on your plan. I think this is really exciting, and this kind of interagency coordination is so critical for all of our mutual success. And I know we have great collaboration with DOH on a number of the things I'm about to mention, but certainly from DEEP's perspective, we think that decent housing encompasses as well housing that is prepared and minimizes risks associated with the impacts of climate change. I know with your participation in the Governor's Council on Climate Change and the Phase 1 report that we delivered to the governor in January, it highlights a number of different critical impacts that our citizens will be facing as a result of climate change. I think that the public health working group from GC3 highlighted a number of those as well. So we think that this is a great opportunity in your planning process to consider climate resilience and adaptation as you look at the definition of what would be considered decent housing in this goal overall. If we're going to see a 5-fold increase, for example, in the number of days above 90 degrees Fahrenheit as we head towards mid-century because of the emissions already in the atmosphere. So access to air conditioning and cooling opportunities is really important. We know we're going to see increased frequency of severe storms, intense rainfall events, and those types of things. So that brings into play ensuring that we have that our building codes and other types of opportunities are for improving the resilience of our housing stock to climate impacts is really important. Affordability is another really critical piece, and our homes and our buildings, obviously how we power them from the electric grid, what we're paying in terms of heating costs is a major driver. We know that folks having challenges repaying their electricity bills is the largest cause of homelessness in the state. And so we're really excited about partnering with Department of Housing on ways to ensure that we can deliver energy efficiency services that help to improve the comfort and reduce the energy use in buildings, but also to enhance affordability and help people stay in their homes. So that's another great place of intersection with DEEP's work. So I just highlight those as just a few opportunities to consider that I think fall into that perhaps how we define what constitutes decent housing. But we're thrilled to support and to work with all of you on advancing this plan. And I appreciate the opportunity to provide some feedback.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your participation. Our relationship is DEEP has waxed and waned over the years, at least over my career. We are in an upswing, if you will, in terms of coordination with your agency, not just in part because you stole our resiliency officer, Rebecca French, but we were already working in that mode. But we know we have a friend, not just in Jeff Kayola and his folks, but with Rebecca and her team. We've been doing a lot of work with Vicki as well on the energy efficiency side. And we hope over the next year to continue to increase our collaboration with your agency. So thank you.
That's great. And I just wanted to mention too that we're just at the beginning of really looking at ways that we can get more data, particularly from the utilities, about even down to the customer level, if possible, to understand the degree of risk or the degree of affordability challenges that residents are facing, and think about whether we can adjust the way that we're that we're calculating the cost effectiveness of incentives for things like energy efficiency services and so on, that it's more keyed to that degree of affordability and degree of risk that customers are facing. So those types of data sets may be valuable for you all as well. Again, trying to not treat every, or trying to deliver our services more based around the needs of individual customers, as opposed to looking at what's the average kind of incentive or need that customers have. So in any case, glad to be part of this, and thanks for including us.
Thanks again. Josh, you're up.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on what Commissioner Dykes said relating to affordability, a very important issue for people with intellectual disabilities in the state. People supported by DDS are often reliant on their Social Security or disability benefits as income, and we know very well that the increased energy costs disproportionately affect people with fixed and limited income. So they're spending such a larger proportion of their limited income on perhaps energy volatility, large swings in costs, and we support that. I also wanted to say that we support the ideas of aging in place, and we really want to work together, and we believe we do work together with many partners to prevent situations where people's only choice because of a change in their health condition or their needs is to receive care in a nursing home or in a long-term care facility or in an institutional setting. And we believe that that's very important across populations, where even young children receive and rely on intergenerational care. So we really feel like these things are important everywhere, and that settings really can accommodate a range of abilities. We have attempted to promote increased use of certain design principles that would allow people to age in place, as well as the use of some things like assistive technology in some of our collaborative projects like the IDASH initiative. And we really look forward to learning more about that and how these things can benefit across population and be part of the design discussion. We feel that the MFP program really proved that just about anybody can, with any types of needs, can be supported in a place of their choice. And we really appreciate the work that we're able to do with everyone on this call. And thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. I'm going to move on to the next one. We're doing okay for time. We had booked 2 hours. We're going to try to keep to 2 hours. But if you need to drop off, we appreciate that. We understand. This is not your only opportunity. This is your specific state agency opportunity to interact with us. For your information, we're taking public comment for the next, Laura, correct me, 7 days or so till the end of next week, I believe. And we'll be doing a virtual public hearing next week where members of the general public, the housing advocacy groups can actually give us comments on our plan. If you have things like this that we don't get to cover today, input, comments, suggestions, on better ways or different ways for us to collaborate, please send either myself or Laura an email with a paragraph or with just a description, or maybe set up a half an hour just to have a conversation further about it. You guys are our important partners. You are our most important partners, and that's why we do a separate roundtable with you guys. The more we work together, the more benefit we put out to the community at large, and thereby benefit the citizens of Connecticut. So we appreciate everything that you do and everything that you're bringing to the table. Okay. Second goal, work to ensure that all the state's residents live in a suitable living environment. We've touched on this a lot already. Suitable living environment includes improving safety and livability of the neighborhoods, increasing access to quality public-private facilities and services, reducing isolation of income groups within a community or geographic area through spatial deconcentration of housing opportunities for persons of lower income, and revitalization of deteriorating or deteriorated neighborhoods, restoring and preserving properties of special historic architectural or aesthetics value, and the conservation of energy resources. Again, we've talked a lot about this in the prior goal, and these three goals all work intricately together. And when we try to draft policies and make determinations on funding resources, we consider all of these, and everything that you guys have talked about and everything that we continue to discuss brings value to address all of these goals, all three of these goals, and the broader impact on the state. Anything new we haven't already talked about that falls within this goal relative to what we're talking about? I think we've hit the energy efficiency, the diverse living conditions, the need for modifications relative to decent, safe, etc. One high priority for my commissioner, I will throw it on the table, is, it's bad terminology she doesn't like me to use, but it's the only one that I can best describe. It's neighborhood revitalization. It's reinvestment in our neighborhoods. Housing is a critical component, but it's not the only component. We need to look at infrastructure. We need to look at educational opportunities. We need to look at job opportunities. And we believe we need to do so down to the neighborhood level. Is that fair, Commissioner?
Yes, that is fair. I think that we do need to invest in take a little more holistic approach, bringing some of our partners in making a difference in those neighborhoods, also increasing capacity to the nonprofits that are working in the neighborhoods, and having a more, as I said before, holistic approach with rentals, homeownership, and rehab. Many houses in the neighborhoods, there are homeowners that cannot rehab their homes, whether it is with lead or roofs. In the energy efficient part, we will be we wanted to make sure that we bring all those resources together in a collaboration. So to that end, we are working with the Regional Plan Association. They're helping us to draft a plan so that we can bring some investments in some of the neighborhoods.
Thank you, Commissioner. Finally, work to ensure all the state's residents have access to economic opportunities. And again, I'm going to shrink this so we get it all in one picture. Oh, sorry, Judith, go ahead.
That's okay. I just, before we go to 3, it hasn't been specifically mentioned, but being the representative from the Division of Criminal Justice, let me say that there is research and very intricate research involved with everything we're doing here that shows that the improvement of conditions of housing lowers the level of crime in the neighborhoods that work is done. I did a presentation back in December 2019 for the Criminal Justice Policy Advisory Council up at the LOB, and it's on that subject matter, but certainly when you improve housing, even just the exterior of housing, there's data showing that crime levels drop, and that is an important component of a suitable living environment for our residents. So crime is part of what we will resolve some of directly by working on housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. I appreciate the comment. And yeah, and I said it last time we met, and I didn't. Maybe I'm remiss for having done so. Connecticut, in particular, the Department of Housing, believes in the housing first model. We believe, recognize, and have documentation that shows if you have stable, decent, safe housing, all other aspects of that household are improved. Education, wealth, health, crime, all have better outcomes for that household, for that neighborhood, for that community, if you have a stable housing environment. So when we talk about housing first, that's the concept. For us, we want to work not just exclusively to provide decent, safe, affordable housing for folks, but to do so with the understanding that it allows the opportunity for all other aspects for that household to be improved. So thank you for particularly pointing out the crime component, Judith. I appreciate it. Okay. Again, finally on the last one, and I talked about it a little earlier, work to ensure that all the state's residents have access to economic opportunities. We do this now as part of our investment strategy when we look at the investment in affordable housing across the state, in particular targeting what are called high opportunity communities, putting affordable housing in areas of the state that have the best opportunities for household improvement, advancement, outcomes, etc. No matter where we put it, if we build decent, safe, sanitary, affordable housing, those households that are able to access that will have better outcomes. But it's to take it to the next level. It's now to put the housing in places that already inherently have higher opportunities, to hopefully extrapolate, expound, and expand on those opportunities, particularly to reduce generational poverty around those who are currently living in either state or federally assisted housing. This goes back to my earlier conversation about the need for the state to again step up and start taking serious action around an anti-poverty strategy. This is my soapbox. I've been on the soapbox for a while. I have been unsuccessful in getting the state to really look seriously at creating an anti-poverty strategy we used to have many, and I'm aging myself, but many years ago. I would love to see us, as a state, take on anti-poverty as a primary, as opposed to just, we're doing all these other things and it has an anti-poverty impact. We're going to continue to do that as a state agency in coordination and collaboration with all of you. I ask each of you think about what your agency is doing and what more you can do, either for yourselves or to help us address anti-poverty here in the state of Connecticut. Okay. Anything in particular that we haven't hit on this economic issue? Our focus is not on economics itself. Our focus is on the other aspects, understanding that it has an economic impact, and we recognize it has an economic impact. As I talked about earlier, we do try to use the information in the state's economic plan as we craft our policies, as we look at where we're investing and how we're investing and its impact. But that doesn't mean we're doing it right. That doesn't mean we're doing everything that we can and that we should. And if there are more things that we can and should be doing, we'd like to know about it. Okay. All right. That is it for me. In terms of trying to get input from you guys, and you've been, I appreciate all the value you guys have added today. I will take these notes. Laura and I will kick them around. They will be included. This recording will be available on the website. It will also be provided to HUD for part of their review, so they understand what we're looking at as a state and what we mean. It basically adds meat to the framework that is our plan. So I appreciate your input. I appreciate all the information provided. If, again, you have other plans for your state agency that you rely upon in terms of how you develop policy, how you determine where and what you invest in, please share it. If there is any relationship to housing, we will include a link in our plan. Some people do, in fact, read our plan, despite what I said earlier. So the more that we can interrelate our plans and our planning activities with each other, it will, in fact, hopefully benefit all of our activities and then ultimately benefit the residents of the state of Connecticut. Any final comments from anybody? Okay. Listen, I cannot thank you enough. My commissioner is still here. I'll give her an opportunity to make a closing statement if she'd like. But before that, let me say, I genuinely appreciate the time, effort, energy it took to come here, to participate. And thank you for all the work that you do every single day. It has been a difficult year for all of us, but we as a state, I think, have made great progress. In terms of what we do, how we do it, and how we can better work interactively. Commissioner.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for all the presentation and the work that you're doing. And thank you, everyone. As Michael said, thank you for all your work. Thank you for the participation. It really will help us to shape our plans. And looking forward to working with many of you and some of those committees that we want to participate. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, stay well. Take care.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.